My name's Tony, and I work as an ice cream man. It's not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills, and I like making kids smile. There's this one neighborhood I go to, nestled between the city and the woods. It's got a charm to it, with its old Victorian houses and tree-lined streets. But there's always been something off about it. One sweltering afternoon, I was cruising down Sycamore Street, the ice cream truck's jingle echoing through the quiet neighborhood. The sun beat down, melting the ice cream faster than usual. A bead of sweat trickled down my brow as I squinted, trying to make out the figures approaching the truck. 3 kids, maybe 8 or 9 years old, huddled together, their eyes fixed on the colorful pictures on the truck's side. The tallest one, a boy with a mop of brown hair, stepped forward, his voice barely a whisper. "Mister, can we have some ice cream?" I smiled, relieved to finally have some customers. "Sure thing, what'll it be?" As they chose their treats, I couldn't shake the feeling that their eyes weren't just on the ice cream. There was a hunger there, a desperation. It chilled me more than the freezer behind me. I handed them their cones, their small fingers brushing against mine, cold and clammy. "Thanks, mister," the brown-haired boy mumbled, his eyes darting from side to side as they backed away. I watched them disappear around the corner, the unease growing in my gut. I decided to take a break, parking the truck under the shade of a giant oak tree. The air was thick with the scent of pine and something else, something metallic, like old blood. A rustling in the bushes behind me made me jump. I turned, my heart pounding, but saw nothing. Just the wind playing tricks on me, I told myself. But then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A shadow darted between the trees, too fast for me to make out its shape. I shivered despite the heat. The ice cream in the freezer seemed to hum, a low, ominous sound that filled the silence. The hairs on my arms stood on end, and a cold dread settled over me. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that I wasn't alone. I started the engine, the jingle a discordant note in the eerie silence. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something horrifying. But there was nothing. Just the empty street, the shadows lengthening as the sun began its descent. I didn't return to that neighborhood for a long time. The memory of those children's eyes, the metallic scent in the air, the shadow in the woods, all of it haunted my dreams. I still drive the ice cream truck, but I stick to the busy streets now, where the sun shines bright and the laughter of children is a comfort, not a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking just beneath the surface of our seemingly innocent world. My name's Lily, and I grew up in this little town in the middle of nowhere. We lived not too far from this ice cream shop my friends and I would walk to almost every day during the summer. It wasn't fancy or anything, but it did have all the good stuff. There was vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, cookies and cream, and other flavors they would sometimes switch out. They even had this Sunday special they did on Saturdays where you'd get 3 scoops with all the fixings. There was this new girl who started working there last summer, and she got a reputation for being real creepy. She was an older teenager with jet black hair and these deep, dark eyes that looked like they could stare right through you. She always had on black lipstick and wore long sleeves, even in the summer. We all called her Wednesday, and she wasn't someone you wanted to be alone with. One time me and my friends were waiting in line and making jokes when Wednesday turned around and gave us the coldest look I'd ever seen. She didn't say anything, but her glare chilled us to the bone. We all went silent after that and never messed around in line again. One hot day, me and my 3 friends came there after playing at the park. We were all around 10 at the time, and I'll call them Ashley, Emily, and Sarah. Ashley had this cool older sister who would sometimes give us rides on her bike, and she had dropped us off to get ice cream. We all pooled together our allowance and stood in line, chatting and giggling. I remembered what I ordered that day, vanilla with rainbow sprinkles and a sugar cone. It was my favorite. For the record, I remember exactly what we were doing when this went down. Emily had just ordered a double scoop of chocolate with a cherry on top when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was Wednesday, staring at us from behind the counter. Everyone went silent and looked at her. It took me a second to realize what was so creepy, but then I saw it. Her eyes were glowing. My friends and I were frozen in place. We'd never seen anything like it before. Just then, Wednesday scooped up my ice cream and with a twisted grin, handed it to me. "Enjoy," she said, in this low, raspy voice that sent shivers down my spine. I took it, and we scrambled out of the shop as fast as we could. Ashley's sister was waiting for us outside, and we told her what happened. She didn't believe us at first, but when she saw the terrified looks on our faces, she gave us a ride home. The next morning I woke up with the worst stomachache of my life. I threw up all day and couldn't keep anything down. My mom took me to the doctor, but they couldn't find anything wrong with me. I stayed home from school the rest of the week, still feeling sick. And that's when the weird stuff started happening. One night I woke up to the sound of scratching coming from my window. I got up to look and saw a dark figure standing outside. It was tall and thin, with long arms that reached out towards me. I screamed and ran to my mom's room. She came back with me, but the figure was gone. The next day, I was playing in my backyard when I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. It was Wednesday, standing behind the fence and staring at me. That's when I noticed her eyes were glowing again. I ran inside and locked the door. Then later that night, I had the most terrifying nightmare in my life ever. I dreamed I was back in the ice cream shop and Wednesday was there, but she wasn't human anymore. Her skin was pale and her teeth were sharp and pointed. She had grown taller and her arms were even longer, like the figure from my window. She was laughing in that awful raspy voice as she reached out to grab me. I woke up screaming, my heart pounding in my chest. My parents were scared for me, but they didn't know what to do. We never went back to that ice cream shop again, and Wednesday eventually disappeared. Some people say she was a witch or a demon, but no one knows for sure. I haven't seen her since that summer, but I still have nightmares about her sometimes. I'll never forget the evil that lurked in that ice cream shop, waiting to be unleashed. My name's Danny, and I just graduated from high school. Living in a small town, job opportunities are about as rare as a triple scoop cone on free cone day. But Ma knew the owner of the ice cream factory downtown, so he got a gig as the night shift janitor. Just sweep up, wipe down the machines, nothing fancy, they said. It sounded simple enough. The factory was a hulking beast of a building, all steel and concrete, smelling of vanilla and old machinery. The lights flickered ominously, casting long dancing shadows on the walls. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the drip, drip, drip of the ice cream machines as they slowly churned out their sugary concoctions. One night, I was mopping the floors when I heard a strange noise. It was a rhythmic thumping, almost like a heartbeat, echoing through the vast, empty factory. I stopped, the mop dripping onto the floor, and listened. The thumping grew louder, closer, until it seemed to be right behind me. I whipped around, but there was nothing there. Just the machines, their metal gleaming in the dim light. I shook it off, telling myself it was just my imagination, but as I continued my work, the thumping followed me. It seemed to be coming from the freezer, a giant metal door that led to the heart of the factory. I hesitated, a cold dread creeping up my spine. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me, and I reached out and gripped the handle, the metal cold under my fingers. I pulled open the door, the hinges creaking in protest. I was met with a blast of cold air, and it fogged up my glasses. I peered into the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest, and then I saw it. A figure, tall and thin, shrouded in black. It was standing at the back of the freezer, its head tilted to the side, as if it was listening. I stumbled back, the door slamming shut behind me. The thumping stopped, and I stood there, panting, my heart racing. I knew I should leave, run as fast as I could, but something held me back. Maybe it was a morbid curiosity, a need to know what was lurking in the shadows. I gathered my courage and opened the door again. This time, the figure was gone. But the thumping had returned, louder than ever. It was coming from the back of the freezer now, where I had seen the figure. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The freezer was a maze of shelves, stacked high with boxes of ice cream. I navigated the narrow aisles, the thumping growing louder with each step. I turned a corner, and then there it was, the figure, standing in front of me, its eyes glowing in the darkness. I froze, unable to move or speak. The figure reached out its long, bony fingers, brushing against my cheek. A cold chill ran down my spine. And then, the figure spoke. Its voice was a low growl, like the rumble of a distant storm. "You're not supposed to be here," it said. I opened my mouth to scream, but no scream came out. The figure lunged, its claws raking across my face. I fell to the ground, the boxes of ice cream tumbling down around me. Then I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. I ran, not caring where I was going, just wanting to get away. A few seconds later, I burst out of the freezer, slamming the door behind me. I ran through the factory like there was no tomorrow, the thumping echoing all the way. I didn't stop until I reached the exit, throwing open the doors and stumbling out into the night. I never went back to the ice cream factory. I told Ma I quit, that I couldn't handle the night shift. She looked at me strangely, but didn't ask any questions. I never told anyone what I saw that night, but the memory of the figure in the freezer, its glowing eyes and chilling voice, it still haunts me to this day.